The storm over the Pacific was the kind of storm that made even steel tremble. Waves rose like black mountains smashing against the hull of the USS Valor, an aircraft carrier slicing through chaos. Rain lashed across the deck and the roar of the sea drowned out every other sound, except for the echo of a single order that would change everything. "Get her off my carrier, now." Admiral Royce's voice cut through the storm like a blade. His face, hardened by decades of service, betrayed no emotion. His command was final, cold, absolute, and merciless. Standing before him, soaked to the bone in her flight suit, was Lieutenant Commander Aria Cole. Her jaw clenched, eyes burning with humiliation, but she didn't flinch. She had faced worse, enemy fire, high G-stalls, near-death crashes, but this was different. This was her own Navy turning its back on her. For months, rumors had swirled through the fleet. Some said she was reckless. Others whispered she was too emotional to lead a squadron. But no one ever mentioned the truth, what she had sacrificed, what she had endured. She had flown into fire to save lives when protocol said she should have turned back, and in doing so she had broken an order. That decision had saved 8 men, but it had cost her everything else. The deck crew stood in silence as she slung her duffel over her shoulder, her boots echoing against the wet steel. No one dared speak. No one dared meet her eyes. Only the rain seemed to mourn her as she walked toward the waiting helicopter that would take her off the ship. She paused once, turning to look back at the carrier, her home, her battlefield, her dream, and for a moment, the lightning caught her face just enough to reveal the pain she refused to show. But then something strange happened. One of the deckhands, young, barely out of flight school, looked up and whispered almost involuntarily, "That's Valkyrie." The word spread like a ripple through the crew. Valkyrie, the name they'd only heard in stories. The pilot who had flown through a hurricane during the Indian Ocean rescue mission 3 years ago. The one who had kept a crippled fighter in the air long enough to guide her wingman home before ejecting over hostile waters. The one who was declared missing, presumed dead, for 6 months before she was found, half-starved, scarred, and alive. And now, the men and women who had just watched her be ordered off their ship suddenly realized who she was. The storm, the silence, the authority of the Admiral, all of it seemed to fade under the weight of that name. Valkyrie, the call sign of a legend. Arya didn't look back again, but she felt it, the shift in the air, the unspoken respect, the collective shame that hung over the deck. She boarded the helicopter, sat down, and watched the carrier grow smaller beneath her as they lifted into the storm. She closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she wasn't sure where she was going next. The months that followed were lonely. The Navy reassigned her to desk duty at a small coastal base in San Diego, far from the flight deck, far from the sky. Every day she'd watch jets scream overhead, and every day it felt like her heart was being ripped apart piece by piece. Flying wasn't just her job. It was her pulse, her identity. Without it, she felt hollow. But she didn't quit. Aria Cole was not built to quit. When the Navy faced a crisis, a rogue storm in the South Pacific that crippled a humanitarian carrier operation, no one else could make the flight. The jets were grounded, the radar was down, and the ship was losing power fast. That's when someone in command whispered her name again. Valkyrie could do it. They called her in desperation, expecting her to refuse. But she didn't hesitate. Within hours, she was back in a cockpit, a test jet patched together from spare parts barely flight-ready. The younger pilots doubted her, the commanders doubted her. But the sea didn't care about doubt. It only cared about courage. The storm was brutal. Visibility near zero, wind shear tearing at the jet. The radio crackled with static as she broke through the clouds, chasing a radar signal that blinked like a heartbeat on her screen. The carrier below was dead in the water, waves crashing over its deck. The crew was trapped, communications down. She lined up her approach manually. No systems, no guidance, just instinct. The jet screamed as lightning lit up the sky. Every warning alarm blared, but Arya's hands were steady. She was beyond fear now. She was what they'd always called her. The storm's equal. The Valkyrie of the sky. When her wheels hit the deck, sparks flew. The arresting wire snapped and her jet skidded dangerously close to the edge, but she kept control. The moment she stepped out, drenched and shaking, the deck crew stared in disbelief. They had heard stories, but seeing her rise from the storm like that, alive, unbroken, felt unreal. And standing there among the stunned faces was Admiral Royce himself. The same man who had once ordered her off his carrier. The same man who had said she didn't belong. For a long moment he couldn't speak. Then, without a word, he saluted her. The entire deck followed. One by one, helmets came off, hands raised in silent respect. The storm still raged around them, but in that instant it didn't matter. The legend had returned, not as a ghost of the past, but as living proof of what courage, heart, and resilience truly looked like. Arya didn't smile. She just nodded, turned toward her jet, and whispered softly to herself, still flying. And somewhere in the wind and the thunder, it almost sounded like the sea whispered her name back. Valkyrie. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the strength it takes to rise after being cast down, please, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It helps stories like this reach others who might need a spark of courage today. Special request: comment below with one word that describes what Valkyrie means to you. Your words might inspire someone who needs hope right now.